four major areas of Eastern view of reality, and we talked about Mahavir and then Krishna, and then we talked about meditation, and the last lecture we talked on Buddha. And although I've been talking about close to 2 hours, and then we have half an hour of question and answers. Even then, when I plan that this is the 10 points I want to cover, it's my experience in the last 4 lectures that I've been covering only half of what I intended to cover. So many things are left out. So I want to at least 3-4 things that are very important that I did not have time to elaborate in the last 4 lectures, that I want to spend some time on tightening up those loose ends. And then today's main topic I have kept is, how does the Eastern view of approaching truth really differ from the Western approach? So that will be my main area of discussion today. One thing that, I said that there were certain basic truths that Buddha found. But one of the Arya Satya, as he called it, he found was the greatest sin according to him. According to Buddha, the greatest sin is avidya. And he defines avidya as ignorance. Ignorance of what? Buddha says, not knowing yourself or not knowing who you are is the greatest sin and greatest avidya, according to Buddha. So his whole process was how you will know you are. That is his main search. So from avidya to what he defines as vidya is the path towards total freedom, according to Buddha. And that's exactly what, if you looked at Hinduism, that is how Hinduism look at it, because we say, what is vidya? Sa vidya ya vimukta. Vidya is that which gives you freedom, total freedom. Sa vidya ya vimukta. And that is exactly what Buddha is saying, that once you know who you are, knowing about yourself, knowing about the knower, if you remove all things that you know, remember, according to Buddha, that's not you are. Everything that you can know, you reject that. That's what our Rishi of the Upanishad is telling you many, many times. Neti, neti. Not this, not this. Anything that you know, remember that you cannot be that, because you are the knower of that. So once you know the knower of all these things, and that's the basic difference according to all these enlightened beings. What is the difference between science and religion? Science is trying to discover the objective truths. The objective reality is what the science is after. But science doesn't ever inquire about who is the one who knows all these things. So the religious search materially differs from science, because science knows the objective truth and the religion says, okay, that's fine, but we are interested in finding out the subjective truth, the knower of all these things that you know. And that's the basic difference. I don't see anything contradictory between religious search and the scientific search. Their approaches are totally different. Their subject matter is totally different. But they are not opposed to each other. Religion is trying to discover who the knower of all these things are. And the science tries to discover the known things. The second major difference between religion and science, as I understand it, is that science always divides things into two categories. Anything, science says there are only two divisions, known and unknown. Science always believes that sooner or later, everything that is unknown will always be known. There is no third category for science. Science says everything is known or unknown, and unknown in future will become known. Whereas a religious person, a mystic, always believes that there are three divisions. There are known things, there are unknown things which will become known, but always religious mystic school always believes that there will be always an unknowable. The whole mystery will never be resolved. Science says no. Everything that is unknown one day will be known. And religious mystic school always believes that it will never be possible. The mystery of the universe is so vast that no matter how hard you try, everything will not be knowable. There always will be something which will be unknowable. That's why we call it a mystic. What is the mystery, And if you look at Einstein, the last days of Einstein, he was experimenting in solving this reality. He was working on an equation to solve the mystery of the universe. And this, it's very amazing. The last statement
the generalized theory.
Einstein, he said that more and more I try to solve it, more and more complex it becomes. There is no end to it. So he gives up. He had to accept that fact. Being a scientist and one of the best ever known, but even though he is known as the best intelligent person, he was using only 15% of his brain. So remember, Patanjali says in his, Yoga Sutra, that if you go to the seventh stage, one stage before Samadhi, you will be able to produce miracles. Because you will be able to use your brain to such an extent. Remember, if Einstein can use 15% of his brain, and he can discover so many things. Remember, if you can use 80% of your brain, 90% of your brain, it's unbelievable. So that's the major distinction between science and religion. That a religious, mystic person always believes that the entire mystery of the universe you cannot solve. Always something will remain unknowable. At the time of discussing Buddha, I also recall that I said that Buddha was not interested in the objective reality of the objective world, and Buddha was also not interested in the world that you create, which Shankaracharya calls Maya, which is the world that your mind creates. And I also, if you recall, I said that Mahavir uses even a better word than Buddha. He says a man is bahuchittava, multi-psychic. Not only you create one world, but you have multiple worlds created by your mind. And those are not realities. They are Maya. Shankaracharya doesn't say that the objective world is Maya. No, objective world is reality. But the world that you create through your mind, that's unreal. That's unreal. And I also said at that time that Buddha is not interested in the objective world. Buddha is not interested in your psychological world. He doesn't even touch that. And he believes that mending of the mind is a waste of time. You cannot mend the mind. The only way he found truth was to step out of the mind. What I described, Kabir sings in one of his bhajan, Amani Avastha. Amani Avastha. A state of no mind, as Zen puts it. That is his whole process of vipassana leads him to the state of no mind through which he perceives the real truth. But remember, it has been 2600 years since, Buddha discovered his truth, and many waters have flowed. So I would only make one little change in the approach that Buddha took. And that is that because of this, our mind has become, in the modern era, so complex. We were not watching 6 hours of TV. So much of reason, so much of doubt, so much of bombardment of all garbage going into the mind, that in Buddha's time, or 5,000 years ago, you used to close your eyes and you were in a meditative state. It was so simple. Life was so simple. But the life has become so complex now. Human mind has become so complex. So at the time of discussing Buddha, I told you that Buddha was not interested in doing anything with the mind. And all Freud and Jung and Adler, he put it aside. That's what all our rishis have done. But I believe in the modern era in which we are living, if psychoanalysis or psychosynthesis of group therapy is used as a stepping stone or as a preparatory ground which would lead you to meditation, then I believe in the modern era it would be a useful exercise. We are not here to use psychology for mending the mind, no. But if psychology can help in clearing this garbage and clearing, your slate so that new things can be written on it, then to that extent, I would differ with Buddha in, modern times, and I would recognize that psychology and psychotherapy and group therapy and all these new devices that the modern, psychiatrists have developed, if it is used as a preparation for meditation, then it would be useful in my judgment. So the use of psychology as a means for acting as a cathartic agent, if psychology helps in catharsis and getting rid of this hidden, garbage that we have stored in our unconscious. Because of civilization, we are told that you can't do certain things. So that which is natural to us, we hide. Because we cannot express our anger. We cannot express the natural feelings that we have. Because we have to act in a certain way in a civilized society. So what happens? All that suppression, all that repression remains with you. So if psychology helps in removing, those as a catharsis, if psychology does the catharsis of all these hidden feelings that you stored and clears the ground where meditation can easily be achieved, then as that preparatory stage, I recognize the value of what Freud and Jung and Adler and all these psychiatrists have been able to achieve. And this is an important point because today is the day 9/11 and we lost 3,000 people, and I was thinking about it this morning. At that time, I must have read 50, not less than 50 articles immediately after 9/11, and the whole issue was, what is the root cause? What is the root cause of 9/11? Why? Why terrorism? Why people kill innocent people? And you have all these arguments, that it was the stupid, foreign policy of the United States, and it is because of poverty and hunger and all that. I don't think that any of the articles I read, and I read many, ever satisfied me as to what is the root cause of terrorism. Why would people kill themselves and kill innocent human beings? And the only reasoning appealing to me that I found was psychological. What has happened is that civilizations have these suppressed feelings, repression. We are hiding all this in our unconscious. The anger. And what has happened, if you look to the history, is that every 20 years or 25 years, we have fought major world wars. And that has acted as catharsis on a collective basis. So there is collective catharsis of the unconscious, that you have. And that got rid of all this suppressed anger and all your desires. But after the discovery of the atom bomb and nuclear bomb, the world has realized that it is simply suicidal to fight these major wars that occurred every 20, 30 years for catharsis. So what will happen then? Because now we don't have this collective process of catharsis. And since there is no way we are going to fight a major war anymore, what happens to this suppressed anger? That is why, this terrorist act happened. It is the release of this suppressed anger. And the process of removing it is very difficult. Very difficult, because even if you kill everybody, what about the new ones that are being trained? Process is infinite. And if one is prepared to die, what kind of threat are you giving? I'm going to kill you. He says, okay, I'm prepared to die. So what kind of a threat can you give that? So it is very unsatisfactory answer, but I believe the only answer is this meditative consciousness prevailing on a very mass scale in humanity. Without that, you will never be able to get rid of this suppressed collective anger that you have been storing, for years after years after years. So that's where, meditation comes as a real solution to mankind's real problem that we are facing right now.
Excuse me if I interrupt.
Yes.
Yeah, it appeals to me as well, what you say. However, the catharsis is a one-time event within a couple of decades, like you say, after which there is a cleansed out state and there is peace for a few decades. However, since 9/11, 10 years to date, that unfortunate mentality and serial suicidal bombings in one way or the other, in one place or the other, has continued, indicating that there may be some jihadist fanatism under the whole thing, instead of one time removing of it with one catharsis on 9/11 10 years ago. So catharsis is by definition is self-limiting until the next one, but here that has continued, and therefore maybe there is some inner hatred in one particular philosophy that has perpetuated.
No, that is exactly, you are supporting my point which I started with. Is that catharsis itself is not enough. Okay? Because on one hand you are removing the garbage, and on the other hand you are putting more garbage in. So it is a constant process in the psychology. But I am not talking about that. I am talking as a preparatory stage for meditation.
Meditation, of course, will cure.
So what my answer is, not stop at catharsis, okay? But if you can develop a meditative state, not only at the individual level, but at the collective level, and ultimately at the cosmic level. Now it's a very long process, but that's the real answer. That's the real answer. On a practical basis, I have thought about this, and I believe that all organized religions, including the Muslim religion, has a mystic school. Even the Western organized religions have within themselves a mystic school. For example, Sufis. Sufis is a branch of Islam. But Sufis are just like rishis of Upanishad. They are very liberal. They are exactly what Hindus and Buddhas and Mahavir would say. Okay? So, Hasids, for example, Hasidism is a part of Judaism, is a mystic school. So if within Islam itself, if people, more and more people lean towards Sufism rather than Islam as it is misinterpreted right now, there is a hope. You will not be able to impose peace from outside. But within Islam itself, if they are attracted more to Sufism, then I find there is a way out. So even within the Western approach to reality, and that's what my today's subject is, and I'll go to there right away. How does the Western view of reaching this truth really differ from our Eastern approach? And that is the subject, of my talk today. As I said, if you look to the three major religions of the West, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all these three religions, if you take, they fundamentally believe that you simply cannot reach to the state of Godhood. In other words, God and you, the creator and the creation, are two separate things. All Western religions, you take any, this idea that our Rishi says that Aham Brahmasmi, I am God. And in Upanishad, that fellow says, Shvetaketu Tattvamasi, you are that too. And then he says, Akhilam Brahmam, everything is Brahma. Now this idea of Advaita, this idea of oneness ultimately, is never accepted in the Western view. In West, in Islam, if you say that I am God, then they say it's a blasphemy. How can you claim yourself to be a God?
But they do say that you are in the image of God.
In the image.
What's the difference?
No, the difference is you can't be one. You can't be, even within our own Hinduism, there are some branches. For example, Swaminarayan. Swaminarayan would never say that you can become God. Never. Advaita is not totally accepted by Swaminarayan. At the most, you can be near God. You can be in Akshardham and you will be very near God. But you can't, there is a separation between creator and the creation. You can't become that. Dvait will always remain. Two will always remain. So if you take the Western view is that God is the creator and the creation and the creator are two separate things. It is like the painter and the painting. Whereas our Eastern view is, no, there is no separation between the creator and the creation. Our symbol recognizing this reality is what? Nataraj. Why Nataraj? Because our Eastern view says that you cannot separate the dancer from the dance. How can you separate the dancer from the dance? The dancer and the dance, they are both one and the same thing. So what our approach to reality is that the creation and the creator, they both have merged into one. The existence itself, if you want to call it God, call it God. But there is no separation. There is no Dvait. They are not two. Ultimately, they are one. The creator and the creation are both one. Whereas in the Western view, that is not acceptable. That is absolutely not acceptable. So even if we believe that there are some Eastern religions which are religion of the prayer, as are the three religions that I just described, Muslim, Islam, Judaism and Christianity, they are the religions of the prayer. So the only way you will reach the truth is by surrendering to somebody. What we call bhakti.
Bhakti.
But even in bhakti, that Eastern view of reaching truth through prayer or through devotion or through love, ultimately, in our way of bhakti, the bhakta becomes the Bhagwan. In the ultimate analysis, the duality always dissolves. The Eastern view is that ultimately there is only one remains. The Advait occurs at the end. And there is a beautiful myth, as you know, of Meera. Meera, he left kingdom and she was, dancing in the bazaar, And, his dear, the younger brother of his husband, her husband,
Raja Bhoj.
he said that now you come back